Hello. Yes, quiet, quiet. Yes. Is it recording? Of course it is. God damn it. What do you think, man? What are you gonna do with all that footage? What are you gonna do with all that footage you just got?
Called a cold open.
Shit.
Brr.
I was not. I'm so glad I stopped because I saw the red light. I was about to do some stupid sounds. How dare you? You're so good at the sneaky cold open.
I do it with my dad too. I just start. And
Yeah.
It is what it is. You can deal with it. But welcome.
Hello. Okay.
Back to
You're steering the ship.
home of the dragon, house of the dragon, where we karate chop your mind with knowledge on Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon.
Indeed.
Cue the clip. Welcome back.
When you overlay the clip, do you cut the footage or do you just put it over a few seconds?
I cut the footage.
Okay, so you're gonna see that anyway.
Well, I'll probably remove that usually. It just
Okay,
depends.
I
I'm
got
very
you.
organic. I see what looks funny, and I'm not afraid to make myself look stupid on
Of
camera.
course,
I'm pretty
I got
good
you.
at that.
Yeah.
But welcome back. Just still shedding my disappointment at all that work I put into those notes.
Paul and I just followed Paul around like a stray puppy in the studio for like 40 minutes as he was going from iMac to iMac trying to find an iMac with pages downloaded so he could get the script he spent forever writing, and he didn't. He just grabbed some random ones offline.
I had to go to somebody on, and I really don't, because I put in the work. I like to find my own information and do the work, but unfortunately it is what it is. So it was really just a recap of the episode, so I remember quite a bit having gone through and done that last night. So I feel like I still have it up here, and now this, thank you vulture.com, because it was the only one that was as long as mine. This is 6 pages, so, but it's a good 6 pages.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good 6 pages. So just overall thoughts on the episode?
Overall, I liked it a lot. This was not only one of, I think, probably top 2 or 3 episodes of House of the Dragon so far. I would put it up there with some of the best episodes of Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
In very much in season 8, the second episode of the season is kind of the last episode of Game of Thrones where your characters really are having like a bunch of moments to talk. The episode before the Battle of Winterfell,
Mm-hmm.
you have Tyrion and Jaime with Brienne and Tormund and Davos and all those guys by the fire when they knight Brienne.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Arya going around and talking to the Hound, talking to Gendry. You have all those characters that we love that have really not spent a ton of time together, finally all in one place,
Mm-hmm.
finally all sitting and talking and having that moment. This was that episode, but where in that episode there was kind of a happy feel of them all being together for the probably final time.
Yes.
And knowing it, this time everyone's in despair and with grief, and
It's
it's
a little
like
different.
It's the mirror of that episode with a whole different cast of characters 170 years before. It was a really cool like connection to make while I was watching. I was like, wow, this feels like that episode, which I would say is probably the highlight episode of season 8. It's probably the best episode of that season, like for fans of the show who like it and didn't like the way it turned out, because it was the last episode that felt like Game of Thrones previous. And this was a really good episode for people who maybe so far have not found a lot of love for any of these characters or haven't found a reason to like or be confused by who they're supposed to be siding with. This episode did an amazing job of you going, okay, everyone has something they've done wrong. Everyone has something they've done right. I can kind of get behind any of these characters except for Larys.
Mm-hmm.
He's still a piece of shit. Everybody else, I'm like, I get it, King Aemond. I get where you're coming from. I get where Helene is coming from. I get where Alicent's coming from. I get where Rhaenyra is coming from. I get where the brothers are coming from. I get where everyone's coming from. They're doing such a good job of mixing the bag and making me not know whose side I'm supposed to be on.
Well, that's
if
a
you're
good thing.
supposed
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
on
yeah.
someone's side in the first place.
Well, I've said that kind of where I stand is on the high tower side, just because of what they've done story wise. Is really where my fall, and that's because of the good storytelling. But they really have set it up to be like a bunch of very altruistic people that, you know, you don't really have reasons to hate everybody. You know, they kind of have done a good job of being honorable. But this is a good episode because it did a lot of like really little things that you may not notice if you weren't paying attention. Which we'll get into some of that. I have a few notes on those. I asked a
The
couple.
Vulture has notes on those.
Vulture. I remembered some of it.
Okay,
I
good.
asked 2 questions before the episode ended last week. One of them was what was going to be.
Who was the next hand going to be?
Who was the next hand? That was the first one.
I was not expecting
No.
you to have you sniped that thing happening. I was not expecting that to have any kind of follow-up in episode 2. I was like, how is this gonna happen? And then right at the end of the episode, they looked through the screen at me and were like, Paul was right. And I was like, whoa, Paul. I said that. My buddy
I was
Nathan,
right on both of
my
them.
friend Nathan watched this and said, dude, Paul did it. It was so
Cracked the
funny.
code.
It was so
I
funny.
forgot I was right about that one, but I remembered that I was right about the rat catcher one.
Yeah.
Which they did it. They just waited till the end. I thought it was going to be
Yeah.
how they opened up the episode.
I like that they got both of them. It was really cool that they just straight away show us one and then at the end show us the other.
They didn't leave it up to anything at all. So there was that, which was cool. And then it was what was the king's recourse, which we both said that he was just going to go blind rage
Yes.
style. And for the most part, I think he did.
And he's not done.
No, he's not. I think he's just getting started.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a good place to pick up. We ended last episode with Queen Helena running into the Dowager Queen's room. Look at me with these words now.
Yes.
I can
Yeah.
spell them too. With her and Kristen Cole getting, and she's kind of like just
Doesn't care about
Doesn't
that
care.
at all.
No.
And you
So-
find that I really like that they touch on that in this episode. Like she says, you didn't see what you saw last night. And she's like, I don't give a f-. Like she is not in that. She's like, you're my mom. I don't care what you're like. Do what you want to do. Like, I'm
like,
married to my brother, dog. Like I don't give a fuck. Like I want my kids
like,
to be okay, and
fish
one
to
of them's
fry.
dead. Yeah. Like,
compared to what I'm doing, you should be doing this in the streets.
yeah.
lady.
Like
Jesus. So we pick up now. Get to the right page here.
the first shot of the episode is like coming from Blurry, the maid walking through with the bloody sheets. That was a gnarly shot. And then them having the hounds smelling everybody, looking for the scent of the people. Like this episode does a really good job of telling you the story visually.
Mm-hmm.
Very like Vince Gilligan, like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. They're really doing a good job of showing you what's happening without having to tell you what's happening, which Game of Thrones is good at. I don't say that like Vince Gilligan has a monopoly on it, but he's really known for it.
No, but
And
he's
he's
good at his
a
job.
genius at it.
He's a
And
good job.
Game of Thrones has done it in the past, but this episode, again, visually, cinematically, is
It's on-
one of the
it's-
most beautiful episodes of television I've ever
on
seen.
point with cinema. I'm telling you, this thing is. It's like Lawrence of Arabia with
Yes.
dragons. It's absolutely beautiful. So we pick up
Yes.
with the castle they're being rounded up by the King's Guard and the Gold Cloaks. They're basically pulling everybody out of the bed. The king is not happy. It didn't seem as though they're not executing people, but they're being sort of rough with them there. But they're tossing the cells basically.
Yeah.
Cut to the King Aemon II in his, I guess that would be his father's old study where they did the
Aegon.
what did I call him?
Aemon.
Aemon, King Aegon.
We're always going to get
I
them
know,
mixed up.
no, but I know these, man. I have them on lock now. But I guess it's his dad's study, King Viserys' study, where he would do the little
Building the
mo-
old
the
Valyria.
models. Yes, and he is destroying it.
Yes.
which is the first big symbolism things in this episode as he destroys it. And in the midst of his yelling and crashing, he basically screams, "I declare war."
Yeah.
Which is not a subtle way of basically, you know where his head is at now. Before
Yeah.
he was
and
worried
where
about
we're going.
people liking him, and now that's sort of the point where he switched to, he's worried about revenge and looking strong.
To the people.
Yes. It's not a very long scene. Quickly with him in there bashing it up.
But it tells you everything. And this guy I still don't know his name.
Tom Glencarney.
Tom Glencarney. Glenn Carney. What a cool last name.
It's a cool name.
That's
I'll
a
tell
cool
you.
name, period. He's awesome. He, aside from Otto Hightower, is the standout performance of this episode.
The range.
He's unreal. The range from episode 1 to 2.
And he does
when
it with
he's
so little.
with so little. When he says, they won't find out about this guy in the first episode, selling the innocence of this guy, and then taking away the one thing that makes him visually happy in the first episode. For one scene, he's so happy just seeing his son walk around. You fall in love with this guy in one episode, and then episode 2, you are on his side with Rage.
Absolutely.
He is. You get it, even regardless of your ties to Rhaenyra. Some people probably not. To me, I want Rhaenyra to come out on top. I'm still on
That's
Team
the
Rhaenyra.
clever thing.
And I like this guy.
That's why this
I
clever
like
thing.
everybody.
They did this story arc without damaging people's feelings about Rhaenyra so much by using sort of Daemon as a scapegoat, which is clever.
When Otto starts discussing using the son to have the funeral procession, the look, the story this guy tells on his face for like a minute and a half without saying a word, and then Alicent has to speak up and say that, like, Otto, you're being kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally he like bursts. Dude, this guy sells every moment of this. Otto
the subtle
Hightower,
stuff.
Rhys Ifan just went ahead and locked in his Best Supporting Actor nomination for this episode at the next Emmys.
With
and
the
this
last
guy,
scene particularly.
especially the last scene, the whole episode he kills it, but that last scene's undeniable. This guy, one more episode even close to this, and he's locking in his spot too.
We've seen the breadth of him. I just want to see him maybe get a little more visceral with his actions and not with someone else's.
Kristen Cole also kind of is starting to show me like, oh, maybe he'll be able to contend. And Matt Smith already has done enough. Like, this might be one of those like similar years Game of Thrones had where you got 4 guys out of the 5. Like last year was Succession.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, Succession and the hotel, White Lotus,
Haven't seen
2
either of
categories. They were the only 2 shows nominated for acting.
them. Never seen either of them.
Their Succession's great. White Lotus is, I've only seen a little bit, but it's also really,
There's
the
tons of
acting,
stuff that I would love to watch. It just
don't have the time.
don't have the time.
Succession and White Lotus last year had every nomination for, it was either supporting actress or guest actor or vice versa. But there was 2 categories of acting where they were the only shows nominated.
That's ridiculous.
That's how stacked the performances were. And this is going to be a similar year, but instead of it being like a guest spot, it's going to be right there, lead or supporting actors. Game of Thrones is going to, or House of the Dragon is going to take it.
It reminds me of early Game of Thrones because there are so many unknown actors in here that just throw down like they've been around the block for a minute.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get to some of that as we get to those people. So we talked about he smashed his father's stuff up.
Yes.
Now we move to the small council. So you don't even need my notes, man. I declare war. Blah, 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 blah. Da, 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 da. King's small council, Alicent, Otto, the whole crew's there. And he's still incensed and he's mad, but at this point he seemed to have calmed down maybe like 10%.
Yeah.
Enough to sit in a chair for the council. But as they say, he wants death.
He's ready
Find
to
him, kill him.
He's ready to
he's
fly
mine.
dragons and fuck shit up.
Yep.
He wants to destroy everything.
Laris knocks on the door. Hey, sir, we've got this fella. And I called him the
He's got
rogue.
your kid's head in a bag.
Yeah,
Like,
we
he
found
says
this
it
guy.
very.
We found a guy with a head in a bag.
Pretty sure it's your kids. Like he says it so that dude just has no
chill.
no chill. He has a little bit of humility. Like he does say it like with protective tones of please don't kill me for saying what I'm about to say. He has enough enough wherewithal to say stuff like that. But that scene in the cell with blood is unbelievable. When oh, we're not gonna hurt you.
He's but you knew that
His
whatever
grace,
was
however,
worse. You knew it was worse.
Yes,
though.
yes.
100% was going to be worse. He shows up. He says, "We got this guy," and the king's like, "Okay, I'm going to kill him myself." And he's already towards
He's
the
like,
door.
I don't need information. I'll kill him myself.
And he makes a good point. What information do we need? We know who our enemies are. We know where they are.
Yes.
And you know, Otto always playing the long game because I think he's the smart player in that he knows he needs to be ahead of the game. So even if they do know who's in charge, and he has to think of the best way for himself forward, which they finally, him and Alicent later in the episode, out and out say what their goals are, which we'll get to.
I really like also in that scene, one thing that was in Game of Thrones that you never really get to see is a proper council of people who are legitimately trying to like do their jobs. In Game of Thrones, you start off in a very corrupt council where everyone is basically doing their own job except for Varys.
Yes.
Varys is the only guy legitimately looking out for the realm. Everyone else is there to
But he's
gain
so
something.
uncorrupt that he's just
He
can be
seems-
savage.
Exactly. In this show, you're 170 years previous with the Targaryens at the height of their power, even if the family is split. You're dealing with council members that are like, oh, these dragons will eat me if I don't do my job.
Yeah.
Everyone on that council is legitimately trying to do their job the right way. Everyone is saying what they need to say in the moment to the king, regardless of his fury, regardless of his rage, knowing this is what I'm here for. I need to guide you in the right way, except Otto. He's the only one who's definitely just looking out for the high towers.
Yeah.
But everyone else there, the Grand Maester, sir, we need this information. I don't know his role. I can't remember.
Iron something or
Iron
another.
something. Sir, we need to know who your enemies are. Like you said, they're steering him in the way a council. And I don't know if that's like a seed for showing how maybe the council will become more corrupt by the end since Larys is on it. And it will, he's obviously corrupt and he's kind of the foreshadowing to what ends up being a very corrupt entire top side of
is
government.
Corrupt the right word though for Varys or for Larys? I mean, is corrupt the word, or is he just sort of like sadomasochistic, kind of like?
Well, I think that in itself
Charlie
is corrupt.
Manson.
Yeah, I think it is corrupt because
His mind is
he's
corrupt.
not looking out for the realm. These other
No.
guys are very clearly looking out for the betterment of the whole realm through keeping the Targaryen name strong. He's like, I'm going to use the High Towers and the Targaryens however I must to ensure that I'm a strong member of the society and that my house continues to be strong, which is...
That's just my question for you
Yeah.
on that one.
Okay.
So he wants to go down and just bash this dude's brains in.
Yes.
But Otto speaks up at the last moment, sort of, and basically says, wait a minute, don't be hasty. We can still use this to our advantage, regardless of what we do
and then
here.
you can kill this guy.
And then you can kill this guy. He's like, what we need to do is have a funeral. A very public, very open casket, very visual funeral. And we need to lead with our, like, compassion, right? So we need to put our compassion first by having the queen and the dowager queen ride in the funeral procession with the body. Obviously, he says, not the king, we got to save the face.
Yeah.
Which is a very interesting scene for Tom Glencarney to see him, like, reject the notion at first.
Yes.
He basically speaks up and says, no, we're not going to
He says-
sully him.
He says the thing that any compassionate person would say.
Yes.
Especially someone who just lost their kid.
Yes, for
And-
sure.
And he sells the like incredibly powerful weak man better than Viserys did in season 1. Viserys was
they were different though. Still.
Yes, Viserys was ignorant and weak. This guy's rageful and weak, and it's
And even the other Viserys too from Game of Thrones.
yes,
He was
he was weak, but he was weak in that he was
morally and
cornered.
constitution.
Yes, he was just this idiot who felt power because of his blood right,
Because everyone pampered him and growing
and everyone
up.
pampered him growing up. Viserys of House of the Dragon was ignorant because his power let him do what he wanted and what he thought was right. But because he was doing what he thought his heart said was right, that's what weakened him. Aegon, God, these names. Aegon is using his power because he's just gotten it all of a sudden and didn't really think he ever was going to. And he likes it now that he has it.
Well, this is the
But
first
he's not an
opportunity.
unintelligent person because he didn't grow up thinking he was going to become king. He grew up thinking Rhaenyra was going to become queen and he was going to have this spot at the top. So because of that, he's not an unintelligent person. He was always probably looking out for being in some kind of role.
Well, you see when Otto shows back up after the first age jump and he's drunk and he like pulls him up. And you basically see that he's kind of like just party boy. He's the rich guy with the rich parents.
He's the playboy.
And he just, kind of does what he wants. He raped a maiden. He's not a good fella because he's
Yeah.
kind of crap. But I think he's got some potentially redeemable qualities within himself if they do his story right, which is why he's such a textured character and such an interesting character in just to be in the scenes.
Textured is a good word right there. I like that. I like that out of you, Paul. That was good. Textured was good. I don't like that. I didn't like that sound. That sound scared me. I'm thinking of the velociraptors from Jurassic Park. I'm
They're
not
the
comfortable
best.
all of a sudden. They are great.
Funeral.
Funeral.
So
We'll get stuck The people start to
Well,
touch
hold on,
Helena.
hold on, hold
We
on,
get a
hold on,
really
hold on,
cool
hold on.
character beat out of her.
Hold on. I'm going to jump too far ahead yet.
This is during the funeral.
Yes.
Okay. Well, where in the what is the scene? I'll tell you
Well,
where it
there's a
lines
scene. There's a scene with. There's a couple scenes, but there's two scenes. An earlier one with Allison and Otto, where they just discuss this idea of the funeral, and then she
Yeah.
goes to her daughter and tells the daughter basically
Yes.
what's going to happen. And they're
Okay.
two quick scenes, but you just find out. Reason why I didn't want to skip over is you really find out Allison. Her one true care in this world is her children.
Yes.
That's what she cares about the most. She's sort of Cersei in that regard. So you find out why she does the things she does, but you also find out that she's very, very guilty.
Yes.
She feels like because of what she was doing in the moment,
Yeah.
that it's somehow her fault. And I think it's some like a religious thing. It's from a place as a parent. So she's sort of going through this tormenting thing where you can tell she feels like she shouldn't be with Kristen anymore. And so I didn't want to skip onto that. But we can go to the funeral now. Yeah. So there's the funeral. And at the same time taking place.
You bringing that up though, right before we get to the funeral, watching Otto, I have to imagine that Tywin Lannister read some of Otto's works, because this dude manipulates the situation in the moment so good in like 5 scenes in a row, going from talking to Alicent, talking to the king, convincing Alicent what needs to happen, and then without telling her until the moment she's in front of the king that she has to be a part of it, and she has to convince Helena to do it too. He manipulates that situation so well, like a snake going through cogs on a board, like just kills it, does not miss a beat, and makes this whole thing happen out of nothing. And you can see from the moment he starts talking to Alicent alone with her that that's his plan.
Yeah.
And does it masterfully. And then you have the scene with Alicent and Helena, and you get this weird little character beat of Helena doesn't want to ever. She wants to stay in the Red Keep and just be herself with her kids. She doesn't want to meet the small folks. She doesn't want to know who the people are.
That's a very subtle acting scene she does with her face, and I really liked it.
And it's a weird little character beat that I don't think we had any
She's
of
strange.
in season. She's strange, but she's strange in a way where she is very much like a nerd today. She does not want to be in the world. She does not want to be in the public. She likes being in her little room by herself, doing her thing. And then with her children, and then she has to go into this funeral. They do the funeral. You see the head stitched onto the body, which was nuts.
And at first I thought, did they get the kid to lay there? And then I thought it jiggles so much the second time I watched it. It had to be a body double.
It had to be a double.
But it's very
It
realistic.
weird.
You could see that they like.
It would be hard to get a kid to sit silent, without moving his eyes.
But it's very realistic looking.
Yes.
At the same time, simultaneously they show King Aegon II go down and visit the rogue Gold Cloak.
Yes.
When he says, "You're not going to torture me," or he's like, "No, I'm not, but I can't speak for
his
king."
grace. Yeah.
And for his grace is what he said. He walks up to him. He doesn't say a dang thing to him.
He
Big
looks
old boy
at him.
turns into a big baby real quick
Yes.
too, and
Blood.
he thinks he's going to be able to like what?
His name's Blood.
Oh, his name's Blood.
Yeah, that's why they call it Blood and Cheese. He's Blood, and the other guy's name is Cheese.
Well, there you go. I didn't know that guy's name.
Yeah.
But I think he thinks he's going to like lie or like confess who told him to get out of it.
Yeah, but he didn't give.
Takes him
he
to
didn't
a
care.
mace to the side of the face, and he's gone. There's an interesting scene. We cut back to the funeral, and the wagon gets stuck. And she kind of has, and I don't know what this is. I called it a vision, a freak out, but they start focusing on the leaves a little bit as they cut into Helena, Queen Helena, and she's kind of like freaks out a little bit. I'm not sure what that was. Is maybe this foreshadowing of something later?
I'm not sure. I didn't pick up on that. I don't even know. Like the things that the people are throwing, leaves or what leaves?
It was like some sort of confetti that looked like falling leaves there. And right before...
I don't think that had anything to do with what she might be seeing. I think that was a character beat moment only. I think they're trying to show you she is not good in this kind of scenario.
Well, that's
this
what I'm
will
saying.
probably
I
not
didn't
be the
know.
last thing. Yeah.
Because she seems to... It's like they start as though she's going to have some sort of premonition.
Yeah.
But then the scene develops into her having like a little bit
panic
of a panic attack. So
Yeah.
I didn't know. I had no idea about the visions.
I think this might be a foreshadowing of her kind of going a little crazy and going mad.
Okay.
And especially because they're probably going to have to, Otto or someone, because Otto no longer is going to be in power by the end of this episode, at least not right away.
You spoiled.
Uh,
Dang it!
but whether he's in power later or not, someone is probably going to continue to just use Helena. It seems like she is going to be a tool now rather than like her own person of power going forward. This is the first beat of showing how weak she is in scenarios like this. She's probably going to be a Sansa level character for a while, and they're either
good comparison.
They're either going to rise her up or she's going to fall really hard.
She has two roads diverged at a wood, and which one does she take?
Which one is she going to take? Which one are they going to steer her down?
Yeah.
Like, what will be her power? Will her daughter be her power? In the books, spoiler alert, in the books, during Blood and Cheese, they say, you pick which kid is going to live and which is going to die. And she points to her, I think she points to the son and says, kill him. And they look at the son and say, remember what your mom wanted, and they kill the daughter. And then they leave the son alive knowing that his mom chose the daughter to live for the rest of the life. And it's f***ed up. And that's like the Red Wedding level thing that happens in House of the Dragon, the book. Like Blood and Cheese is what people refer to.
That would hit so much harder.
And then
she would have picked, her pick the daughter or the son, and then kill the son so that the daughter lives, and she now knows that the son was picked. Exactly. So you have the same thing, but you still kill the son.
Exactly. And in the book, the son ages much more, and the story goes a lot further than we're at right now. And so she can never look her son in the eyes again. Like, her character with her son, like, the relationship is really fucked up for the rest of their life because of that. And, like, it builds that story has, a lot of stuff happen. I only know that because I have a friend at the poker game I play at who read the books, loves it, and, like, was going in depth with me last week after that episode. And excuse me, and was explaining that to me. And I don't know why they would go in such a different direction, but they have to have had a reason.
Yeah, maybe that they're... Because I've noticed that time-wise, they move a little bit more briskly through this show.
Yeah, so they're not going to anymore. Apparently, from here on, it's it's going to cover like maybe 4 total years from this season and the next 1 or 2
that was
seasons.
my guess is that
they did all their time skipping in season 1. They covered 20 years in season 1.
Yeah, they did cover quite a bit. But I didn't know if they were going to sort of use the knowledge of, okay, well, we know we're going to have these characters coming in. We don't have room for this, so we know this is just a storyline that we can use its advantage now to get rid of the kid. So funeral freak out. There's a scene before that where I remember where the king, Aegon, and Helena walk past each other on the steps, and they don't even say a word to each other.
Don't say a word. And she kind of is like, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
She has like a moment of like, okay, I think I want this to happen like this. I don't kind of want to talk to you right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Because she doesn't seem to like him, and he doesn't really like her.
Like that
they don't,
either.
they're not like in love or anything. They are brother and sister, and they're doing their duty as Targaryens, which is have kids continue the bloodline pure.
100%.
And that's pretty much their relationship is. Like, she doesn't say my king. She talks she says my brother when she talks about him.
Yeah.
In season 1. In this season, I haven't paid as much attention, but like at the end of the last season, when they already have kids, she says like my brother.
Yeah, I don't think she refers to him by his title so far in season 2. I do like the touch at the funeral where they are saying, what's it called? Behold the works of Rhaenyra Targaryen.
Rhaenyra the Cruel.
Yes, that was a really good touch.
Or Rhaenyra the Treacherous or something. They say, or Rhaenyra the Monstrous, I think is what the guy in the crowd says.
Yes.
He says something that isn't exactly the title of the episode, but it's basically the same.
And then right before the scene ends, they do say, curse you, Rhaenyra, someone from the crowd. And they subtitle that, so that's should be somewhat meaningful, I'm guessing.
Yeah, like the inlay subtitles. Mm-hmm. It's weird what you see in inlays, like, and what it means for the story, because it really does mean that like someone with the story had to make it like definitely for certain that's what it says. It's like when you watch Star Wars and you see that R2 when he beeps, or like what's his name from Rebels. In Star Wars, the droids have subtitled lines that what it is they're actually saying. Mm-hmm. And it's really funny because when you hear it and then you hear the beep, you're like, it sounds like it. like the beeps they make sound like the subtitles. It's weird. Like
Oh,
they
well,
are
you know
saying
that,
real things.
like for instance, the droid.
Sorry for this tangent, guys.
BB-8 in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
You know who's credited with the voice of BB-8?
No.
Bill Hader.
Bill Hader's BB-8?
I think there's more than one person, but they credit Bill Hader.
That's amazing. That's
Oh my
incredible.
God, it's amazing.
Oh, okay. Back to House of the Dragon. Sorry about that, guys. Freaking out a little bit. If that's true, if it's not true, how dare you? And if it is true,
I swear I saw that.
I love you, Bill. I love you
I'm a
more
big
than
fan
I
of Bill
already
Hader,
did, and
too.
I loved you a lot already.
All right.
Oh, Barry. That's my boy
All
Barry right there.
Thanks to Otto's quick. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, now we cut to Dragonstone, where we see Rhaenyra.
And her council discussing the events of what happened in
Rhaenyra.
King's Landing.
Bitch.
How dare you? I love Rhaenyra.
I'm just kidding. I don't hate her. I'm warming back up to her a little bit.
Yeah, this episode they definitely distance you in the first episode by not
She's
giving
got
her any
blind
lines.
rage. She's like back down to it, and so you find out immediately what happened. That someone murdered the kid, and she's pissed. She's like, "I didn't do that shit.
Yeah,
Like, what the heck? Like, come on, bro. Can we
Yeah.
say something? Can we put a word out?" And their masters and maesters like, it probably won't come on good faith. People may not listen to it. We can do it, but it's going
Yeah.
to look reactive at this point. And so she's kind of like looking around the
we've
room.
been written into a corner, is what her advisors are telling her.
Yeah,
Basically.
and some of them even are hinting at the fact that they think that she did it
yeah,
because we would get it. Your son was murdered. Any parent would want
yeah,
to react to it. She eventually locks eyes on Damon, and immediately.
Well, what's her name? What's her name? Rhaenyra, Princess Rhaenys. Rhaenys locks eyes with Damon first,
Yes.
and just is giving him the cold stink eye, hard, and he just kind of like he's just like
smirking.
like,
He's
"Shit,
not
she
even
sees
looking
me."
at the queen the
Yeah.
whole time. You can literally like see his back the whole time, and he's just sitting there.
That scene, if you go look at that scene shot for shot, the lineup of all the characters, it's telling the story of the episode really well,
Mm-hmm.
shot to shot. When everybody's kind of doing this look around the room at who's to blame,
Mm-hmm.
shot for shot, the queen moves out of the way behind Rhaenys, showing Sir Eric,
Mm-hmm.
and Eric's looking at Daemon. Rhaenys is looking at Daemon, and
Mm-hmm.
then she walks over. Damon's looking at Rhaenys, and she looks at Daemon finally because it's all getting put together.
Yeah, but
It
she
is
seems
so
to
good.
not realize it till the very
Yeah.
moment that. But everybody kind of knows who's what's up, or at least who's
Yeah.
potentially behind it.
Yeah, who in this
Odds are.
room would have done this?
But she, to this point, I guess, has been a little blinded by him being sort of like her love. I get this. She's sort of puppy love at this point, blinded from her youth puppy love, I guess.
yeah,
So I think it cuts right to them now in a conversation about this whole situation, and it's a great scene.
their chemistry
One of my favorite
is
scenes.
unbelievable.
Yes.
It is so good. You would imagine these guys have been doing movies and shows for the last 15 years together. They own this scene. The few scenes they do have together in the show, because when you really get it written down into minutes, they're on screen together for like 30 minutes of 10 episodes or 8 episodes, however many it is in season 1.
They're big moments.
Their big moments are all on screen together, and it's only for those big moments. There's not a lot of build. They just start off with this chemistry. And even with who played young Rhaenyra?
I don't know her
Emma
name.
Darcy plays older Rhaenyra. I can't remember.
I know what she looks like, but I don't know her name.
Yeah, her chemistry is amazing with him.
She nails it.
But then this lady comes in, Emma Darcy comes in as Rhaenyra, and absolutely blows everybody away. Every scene she's in, and every scene with Matt Smith she has, it's not two characters giving a performance. They are a character. That couple kill it. They're an item. They kill it. They're
Wow.
so good. In that whole scene, she is so level-headed for what is happening.
Absolutely.
She
Even
is
when
still
he gets
grieving
to
her
result
son.
to
It
some
is
name
days
calling.
after her son is gone.
And he results to some pretty name calling in there as well
Yeah.
for him. But you said that they're dating. Well, not anymore.
They're what?
You said that they were like together, but they're not anymore.
Yeah, no, it's kind of unclear.
Yeah, well, so
status of their
She
relationship.
calls him out on it.
Yeah.
He says, "It's not my fault. I sent these two guys to kill Aemond to retaliate," which I think is fine, and you probably would have thought was fine. But she's like, well, but did you? Or did you tell them blood for blood? And if you can't find someone, kill somebody.
Yeah.
Because you just wanted to kill someone with the Hightower blood because you feel like Otto had something to do with you being usurped as heir. He blames, or she thinks that he still resents her for being heir. And he basically comes out and says, well, my brother was always weak. He knew I was the better man. And he was always scared of me. And that's why he named you heir, was just to basically get back at me. So they kind of have words with one another over this. And she basically literally looks at him and calls him pathetic to his face.
Yes.
Tells him to get
And
out.
delivers the hell out of that line.
It's subtle pathetic,
Yes.
too. I was reading the line. I was like, wait, what the flip did she just say?
Yeah.
Because it's very quick in passing. He says something, and then you cut to the look of her, like cut to her reaction, and it's just very like pathetic. It's just like
You're
very
pathetic.
It's just very subtle.
Yeah, like she's realizing it in that moment.
Yes, and then
She's like,
sort
it's
of
like it's a discovery. It's like when you're in court and you find it in discovery.
Yeah.
She
But
found in
she-
discovery upon cross-examining
it's like she
him alone.
realizes in the moment and says it as she's realizing, which is why it's this weird projection. But it leads to basically him just leaving, and he's like, "Peace out, babe. I'm out
Yeah.
here." And he goes and gets. You see him get
Passes
on
his
Dragon
daughter in the hallway.
Doesn't say a word.
Doesn't say a word to his
to
daughter,
her.
who he doesn't really. I don't think he has real ties.
Well,
to
she
his
says
daughters.
she says later in the episode when she's speaking to Jacaerys that she doesn't really like him anyway.
Yeah,
But yeah, they pass in the hall as he's leaving.
which was also a great scene.
Mhm. And at that point, you see earlier in the episode when they're calling out what happened, the news. Jacaerys says, "Hey, I'll go to King's Landing and watch troop movements." So she says,
And she's
"No."
like,
no,
no.
no. So she has Bela come in, which is her niece and Damon's daughter.
Basically saying to everyone who was there to witness,
Subtly.
a little subtly, a little not so subtly, I don't care if yours in danger right now. I'm keeping my son alive.
Yeah, for
Very
sure,
much.
100%.
But also, I will say, knowing that she would probably take it a certain way, she plays the scenario, not the scenario, she plays the moment of telling Bela very well in showing compassion and saying that she needs her and to be safe and to not let anything happen. But like the subtlety of, I don't want my son there is obviously there. But with that said, where it would look like at face value, I'm just trying to protect my son, she does a really good job of, in the moment, compassion to a character she knows will see it that way. Be careful. I don't want anything to happen to you either.
Yeah, she
I just
doesn't.
can't risk my son right now.
But she also needs someone that she can trust out there. So
Exactly.
she has to go with family. So that's a quick scene.
God, what a family, too. 'Cause that's it's really her niece who is her stepdaughter.
So
that's the craziest part about that whole scenario.
it's that family tree looks more like a wreath. Baby.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah,
She takes Moon Dancer.
it's like one of those. It's like one of those tomato plants that you put in a bag upside down.
All right.
Oh man, that's great. Takes Moon Dancer to look at King's Landing and understand what's happening.
Okay, so we cut to Kristen Cole and Sir Eric. There's two twins. One went with.
Sir Eric.
They're both Sir Eric.
They're both Sir Eric.
One is with an A, and one is with an E.
Okay.
Sir A. Rick is on Kristen Cole's group.
Is he?
Sir E. Rick is with
Okay.
the other one. I called them.
I'm not going to challenge that because I don't
I'm
know.
gonna call. I called them Good Eric and Bad Eric.
Yeah. Who's
Bad
good Eric to you?
Well, the defector is Bad Eric
The one on Rhaenyra's side?
on Rhaenyra's side.
Okay.
And Good Eric, but just because that's the way that whoever's in power, I'm trying to think that way. So that
Yeah.
would be the good team because you could be on one or the other, and it might
Mm-hmm.
be more subjective. So he goes down to where Sir Eric is eating after a shift and admonishes him for his cape being dirty.
Yeah.
And really, you could tell he's just picking a fight with him. He's just kind of being a butthole. to
He's
him.
deflecting. He just got, bitch slapped by Alicent saying they can't do what they've been doing and that because of what they were doing,
Yes,
her
she
grandson
asks
has
him-
been
she
killed.
even asks him too, have you told anyone?
Yeah.
'Cause she's feeling guilty. And
he
she
looks
thinks
at her
he is.
and he looks at her with a look of, who the do you think I am? Like, what a gangster, like, dick on the table scene. That dude was like, bitch, what?
If there's
You
one
think I
thing,
would
he's
say
not going to
anything?
say some shit
Yeah, exactly.
thing he's not
He
going to.
he really steals a lot of the scenes he's in this episode.
quietly.
He
But that's
plays
good writing, baby.
he plays some Tywin Otto shit better than a lot of the characters in Game of Thrones have. He pulled
Subtly.
some Littlefinger Varys shit, manipulating a situation. He went in there and conversationally bitch slapped Sir Eric
Without saying a
without
word.
saying a word into doing his bidding.
Yes.
Just to win favor with
Yes,
the king.
yes.
Knowing that this is like one of his only ways going forward
Knowing
to keep power.
good and well that this is a suicide
Oh,
mission.
no one's coming out of this good.
No, and I knew
nothing can
I knew
happen.
when he left to go do this that he and his brother were both dead.
I knew for sure one of them was going to die.
I figured they both were going to die.
I really
and
didn't pick
I
up
honestly thought he was going to win and then kill himself.
until the fighting. I did not realize like, oh, it's going to be too hard for them to not both die here
Yeah.
because of the implication of the fact that they are both twins. And
We'll get to that.
there's no blood test.
No,
we can't tell who's who.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. I have questions about that.
Your Grace, which one is Sir Eric?
So he basically says you need to go here. He uses glory and making up for the error of somehow it being his fault that the prince is dead. Prince Jaehaerys was his name.
Yes.
Freaking Jaehaerys, Viserys. Blah, 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 blah.
Aemond, Aegon.
I need a ray gun for all these Aegons
How dare
to make
you?
this Dagon. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Shot by Damon. Oh. Okay, we're done. Sorry. No bars. Not a bar. We suck. We suck.
So he says, "Yeah, go." And he's like, "Can I finish eating at least?" He's like, "No,
Bitch,
please.
no, dude. You gotta go die.
Stepping, bro.
I need you to die so I can have power still.
So he leaves.
Let me tell you that quietly, but you're too dumb to see it.
We go cut now to Massaria and Rhaenyra because she's now been captured by Rhaenyra. And Massaria is Daemon's old wife, who was the one that gave him the information on who could help him.
Would have been his wife.
Would
They
have
never.
been.
Yeah.
Would have been
She
his
was
wife.
pregnant with his kid.
Supposed to be his wife.
Yeah.
And she basically confesses, yeah, I sold them the info. But all I did was tell them
I was
who
told.
is corrupt.
Yeah, and I was told this was the only way to get my freedom.
Yeah, and she Rhaenyra's kind of like, I don't want to hear this nonsense. It's stupid.
Yeah.
But she still expects Rhaenyra to keep Daemon's word, even
Yeah.
though Daemon did it behind her back. She didn't really. She's like, kind of questions her a little bit. We hear a little bit about her backstory, where she's from.
She became in this episode possibly the most likable character in the whole show.
But also, I still feel like there is some undercurrents here that we don't know because she gives us a little bit of backstory. But seems to me like Rhaenyra is like a little bit like, I don't know that I believe you, almost as though she knows something that Massaria doesn't know she knows, which is why it ends with, where'd you get that scar on your neck? And you see Massaria's face change a little bit. Like,
How does she get the scar?
she doesn't say.
No.
It just cuts to the scene. But it's a very weird thing.
I didn't know if you are like if that's something we're supposed to know.
I didn't even notice the scar. It just looks like she's got like a little bit of like a white mark on her neck.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but that's how that particular scene ends.
Because I've seen season one time all the way through. So forgive me if I'm wrong here. That scar might be Daemon choking her when they had their moment, and
He did the same thing to Rhaenyra.
yes, that's what I was thinking. I said that last night when I was watching with my friends.
See, I didn't get that.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking may have happened, and that might be the reason.
Well, there you go.
Rhaenyra cuts a switch, and right away,
That's why he's here, because I'm a flipping idiot.
now look, I might be wrong. I think that's what happened.
No, but that would be
It's
that
been
would make a
2
lot
years
of sense.
since that episode.
It would make a
since
ton
that
of
season
sense.
came out, and I've only seen it all the way through one time. If that's what happened, that's probably why Rhaenyra very quickly changes her mind and immediately is like, "You're good. My bad."
There's a scene earlier, and again, it's because I don't have my notes, but really quick scene between Lord Corlys. There's actually a little plot line there. We see Lord Corlys and Rhaenys in bed together, and he's a little upset that Daemon has left and not said where he's going.
Yeah.
Even though later we hear in a conversation between Baela and Jacaerys that Jacaerys believes he's gone to Harrenhal.
Yes.
So that's where I think he's supposedly gone at this point. Rhaenys uses the opportunity to reaffirm her loyalty to Rhaenyra in bed with her husband. We also see a small scene between Alan and Adam, which is their names, he's the guy that pulled Lord Corlys from the ocean,
and his brother.
and his brother. and they're sort of on the docks over there as they're getting closer to finishing the ship. They're worried that, or they think Alan thinks his brother Adam is going to be asked by Corlys to be part of his navy. He doesn't really want it because he doesn't want to go to war. There's also a scene, which we've forgotten to discuss, between Hugh, which is the steel worker from episode 1, who asks to be paid ahead of time by the king.
Yes.
And we get a conversation between him and his wife about how they're still worried about those resources and that it was very expensive to find a chicken for dinner. And,
Yes.
and it's cost more money. And so they're just kind of worried. There's little throwaway scenes in there that I didn't
Are
want to
subtly going to
but
build
they lead to
the
things,
greater story.
because we see later in the episode Alan on the beach, the one with long hair,
seeing the dragon,
seeing a dragon fly
and
overhead,
grabbing a crab.
and those happen prior to the point in the story, but they're like fillers between scenes, and I don't know where they went, but I wanted to mention them because they're important, especially since I know their names. Okay, so now we have Rhaenyra calls Miss Arya back,
Yes.
and she's like, all right, I'm going to let you leave. Sir Eric here is going to take you to a boat bound for Myr via Pentos. So she's to go there, and she sends Eric, the other twin guard, to help her onto this boat. While she's walking to the boat, we don't see Eric at this point, so we assume that he's left her. We see good Eric entering the beach
Yes.
towards the castle, passing her. She notices him, and that's kind of weird, but she doesn't stop, at least that we see in this episode. We see her kind of like look at him, give him the side eye, and it seems as though she turns to like walk towards him.
Well, she does. She definitely stops. She
But
tells the
but
guy.
but she doesn't. We don't see like her stay. We don't see.
Oh, sure, but like it's
You assume that like she saw something, but you don't really know. It's ambiguous as to like, did she do anything or did she leave? It's kind of like we don't really know.
Well, I think it's just because they didn't want to have to play out that whole. You're supposed to put it together because she tells her guide to stop, and then, with seemingly no understanding of why, the other brother comes in after he's breached Rhaenyra's chamber,
Well-
and that's to show you that
Well,
she
you
came
forget,
and
though.
explained.
So he makes his way into the castle afterwards, and eventually he runs into his brother. He sees his brother, and at that point he takes his helmet off so that he'll look just like his brother. And I had this question: why the hell do both sets of Kingsguard wear the same flippin' armor?
Well, I think he's still wearing the same armor because he's showing solidarity. They're all trying to say we are the right Kingsguard because this is the real claim to the throne. That's why they haven't changed their armor. Because the Kingsguard is a sullen sacred oath,
But
and
at the
they
same
all
time-
believe, the ones that they're sided with believe that they're on the right Kingsguard.
But you wouldn't do anything to differentiate yourself from the others?
Well, they wouldn't really have to because the brothers know who's who, except in this case, there are twin brothers on the Kingsguard, so it's silly.
I mean, it seems to like leave yourself open. I know there's not a ton of Kingsguard, but it seems
Yeah.
that's a flaw in terms of like security, potential.
Only when
security
there's
flaw.
twins.
Well,
Because
only
they
when
know
there's
they know who's on whose side.
two kingdoms of people, but still, it's easier.
Yeah.
It's easier.
It's
I just didn't-
definitely a thing you
like
should
put
have
a
thought
red
of.
sash over him or something. Do something silly. You
Yeah,
know?
shave your beard, like
Right.
you know. What I mean?
He goes into the castle. He takes his helmet off, and eventually he goes up to a guard and he's like, it's a restless night. I'll take the watch and you get out of here. At which point, I think he locks the back door to her room. Or I'm sure there's like multiple entrances to the room at some point because he locks a door and then he bursts in with his sword at the exact same time his brother bursts in another door and they're like, en garde.
It's the same door. He comes in through the door he
Oh,
entered
okay.
through.
So they just, it's the
That's
blocking
why I'm
in these
saying. That's why
scenes.
our girl, the spy lady, I can't remember her name. What's her name again? The White Worm. That's what she's known as.
Miss Arya.
Miss Arya. That's why it implies she runs back and says something to someone, and the word just gets to him, and he's just
that's-
left, so he's still the closest
Well,
one.
that's the reason why it's not clear because he sees Eric walking about the castle, just kind of like doing his thing, and that's when he takes his helmet off. But we don't see any other interaction other than that. So it's potential that that's what they were indicating, but I don't know. It's hard to say that that's what they did when I don't see it on screen. It's a potential,
Yeah,
but they both end up in the same room, and it's just the queen and one handmaiden.
yeah.
And that's it, because she's like, they're doing some.
She's
like,
going to
not
sleep.
feeling
She's-
weird. She's going to bed early
Yeah.
or whatever. And so, obviously, a battle ensues between the two. At some point before they really get into it, she yells for the handmaiden, "Leave, go get Sir Laurent." And so you think, okay, she's going to go get Sir Lawrence, however long that takes. So they gets to fighting. The way they cut the scene together, you don't know who's really winning.
It really does quickly become a confusion, like who's who.
And even once one of them gets wounded, and you could use that as a visual cue, they don't shoot from below the leg, so you
Yeah.
can't really see it. So they fight, and it's a close battle. It's getting pretty aggressive.
It seemed to me that the guy who gets his leg cut is the one on Rhaenyra's side at first, but it ends up being
Well, I thought
seeming the other way.
No, I thought what my thing was is that they fight,
Yes.
whatever. At some point, Sir Lawrence comes in the room, but he doesn't know who attack.
he can't know.
They don't know.
No one knows, and
So
Rhaenyra
they-
can't tell because
No.
it's gotten so confusing so quickly.
What the one that's on Rhaenyra's side gets his leg hurt.
Yes,
And
that's what it seems like.
They fight. It seems as though to me that the one that came to kill Rhaenyra is the one that won the fight.
That's what it seems like.
But then he kills himself.
Exactly.
Which is what I expected him to do.
yes,
Which is the only reason my big negative about the episode was that predictable moment for me. But I wanted to ask you that because you.
well, I just don't understand. I don't understand why the one who comes to kill Rhaenyra would kill himself before at least attempting to kill Rhaenyra.
I mean,
after
maybe
he's
having
killed
to
his
kill your
brother.
brother can be a cathartic situation.
I agree, but I just don't know why you would not continue to try and at least get the mission done. You've already had to kill your brother.
Yeah.
I
mean,
think
he literally falls on his own sword.
yeah, which makes me think that it's the brother that was on Rhaenyra's side that kills himself.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to tell because it both looks like they both have a leg injury.
I
in the end.
I really feel like you're not supposed to know.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why they did it that way because they
yeah.
wanted it to feel as difficult for the viewer as the people in the situation.
Yes, and it is such a game. That might be the most Game of Thrones thing that's happened in this show
Mm-hmm.
so far. Is that moment, because that really is one of those like you don't realize until it's happening. At least I didn't. You say you like predicted that.
In my head, I thought, you know what's going to happen is he's going to win the fight and then kill himself.
Yeah, and for me, I was not until they were clashing swords, and it set in like, if someone comes in here, whether the brother who's on Rhaenyra's side wins or not,
Mm-hmm.
no one's going to be able. It's not whether or not they can trust whoever it is. They're not going to be able to believe. There's no Ancestry.com.
No.
There's
Blood
there's
test.
no blood testing.
No.
Like these are motherfucking twins. Like you
And
don't
they
know
are
which
armored
one's
from
which.
head to toe. Other than that, can't pull
in
a
the same
mole
word.
out.
Yeah, they're wearing the same clothes. Like unless somebody just knew of a weird tattoo and they could check it later.
Yeah.
Like there's no way to know.
Right.
And it's such a crazy scene. It's such a Game of Thrones scene, and they do it so well.
And it's such a good stinger to end the episode too.
A great stinger in the episode, and they do a really good job of pulling a Tyrion from Game of Thrones, in that Tyrion is this big bad gangster character with his knowledge until it comes down to a moment of weakness where he can't defend himself. Rhaenyra is this big giant gangster character in her presence when she's on screen, when she's surrounded by her peers. In this moment, when she's literally about to lay down because she doesn't feel good, and all she has with her is a handmaiden, you see the weakest version of the character we've seen so far. She is so defenseless.
She's really what she can do. She just sits there and watch.
She just sits there. She knows there's nothing. What's
and
going to
she
happen?
comes this close because he about gets her.
Yeah, it's so close. Like
There's
a couple of
two
times.
times where he lunges at her and like just barely.
So good. It was unbelievable. Great scene. Great acting from everybody. Rhaenyra's cry of no when he is about to fall on the sword, because she doesn't know who it is.
She doesn't know.
She just hopes and thinks that it's Sir Eric on her side. And if it is her, Sir Eric, it's the most brutal moment in the show so far. It's so sad. It is. Who cares about Jaehaerys II? Like, who cares about this little kid getting his head cut off? Who cares about all these moments? This brother just killed his brother to protect you, or out of duty, and then killed himself. It's like the coin flip is undeniably devastating either way. It's so God.
We actually
Good
skipped
job,
a
House
scene.
of the Dragon.
We skipped a scene, and I don't want to forget about
Okay.
it, between Otto and Allison at the end, where they
And
just,
Otto, and we haven't even talked about
Yes.
Otto and
real
Aegon
quick,
and Kristen
real quick.
Cole.
So there's a scene with King Aegon II, Kristen Cole, and Otto Hightower, where he calls him stupid for what Kristen did sending.
Mind how you speak to your grace. His grace is my grandson, and my grandson is an idiot.
Yes.
That is one
He
of the
gives him
greatest lines.
some choice words.
That is
for
one of the
sure.
greatest lines of all time.
Yeah.
Dude, he kills that scene.
He gives him some definite choice words, and he doesn't hold back. But
That's the Emmy scene. That's when they show the scene why you're nominated. That's the scene they'll show.
Yeah, that's the one where you show the pit of like how dark Otto can be.
Yes.
Where he basically says, "You're stupid for Kristen Cole doing that, sending the King's Guard after him
without
to kill
any
him."
advisory from your.
And he's like, "You know what? Screw you, buddy. Give me the badge.
Yeah.
Give me the badge." Otto's like, "You're an idiot. How stupid are you?" He's like, "Well, my father named me the king." He's like, "No, he didn't." He basically says, "No, he didn't. You
I
idiot."
named you the king, you idiot.
Yeah. So he says, "My new hand," he names Sir Kristen Cole, "will be a steel fist," is what he says.
God,
great
what a-
scene.
Great lines.
Great scene.
That whole scene, it reminds me of the Prisoners of Azkaban Harry Potter movie, the third one, when you have Lupin, Sirius Black, who is
You lost me.
have you ever seen?
I mean, I've seen Harry Potter, but not enough to know it.
It's Alan Rickman. Who plays Gordon in The Dark Knight? God damn it.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman, Alan Rickman, and whoever plays Lupus. He's a great stage actor. I just can never remember his name. It's just those three guys acting at each other for like 10 minutes. It's one of the greatest scenes in the whole franchise. That's what this scene felt like. Because Kristen Cole, up until this moment, has really delivered an acting performance in this episode that he hasn't delivered yet. He's kind of played the like wimpish, like beaten dog in all of season one. Rhaenyra kind of makes him his bitch. Then Alicent makes him his bitch. And this is the first time where you see him really standing up for himself and for his own position in this whole story.
Well, he doesn't really stand up for his position. He just kind of
Ever.
like.
Until this episode.
But he doesn't really stand up for it. He's just kind of like.
Well, what I mean is he's manipulating the situation in a way
Yeah.
where he's going to come out on top. For
Yeah,
the
but I
first
don't think
time.
he didn't do it. I think to manipulate his position.
Well,
at
I didn't
all.
think he meant to be hand by any means.
No.
But up until this moment, he's kind of been like, I'm f***ing doing my thing now. And then you have Aegon in a blind rage, and you have Otto, and these three guys are just killing it in this episode already. And then you throw them in a room, and Otto's f***ing talking shit, Aegon's talking shit, and Kristen Cole's over here, the bystander,
Just watching.
becoming all of a sudden this giant, powerful person that he had no intention of becoming. And he is the sponge taking all of this brutality of this scene in. And he's going to be the guy that saw it. He's the only witness. And now he's the f***ing hand of the king.
It's a pretty damn good job.
It's an incredible scene.
So you get murdered.
Yes.
The other scene is
Otto Hightower leaving
Otto
that
and
building with his
Alicent.
head is amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think he's too G to go down.
Yeah.
But the last one we talk about is Alicent and Otto, which was the one I wanted to end on because there's some questions in here.
Okay.
Where they talk about where's he gonna go? He's like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go to Old Town, and because that's where our peoples are at, and that's where your son, what's he call him?
Oh, the fourth son that we
Darren?
haven't. Yeah, Darren or
Darren, I believe.
Yeah,
is his name.
something
And
like
that's
that.
where Darren's at.
we haven't seen this
Nope.
kid the whole show.
Nope. And Otto gives him some high marks. He's like, he's got the temperament. He's our hope. Well, I'll go get him. She's like, well, don't be too hasty. Maybe you should go to Highgarden and chat up the
How
Tyrells.
old is this kid? Where does he fall in line with these
I
other
don't
kids
know.
in terms of
That's
age?
what I want to find out. I'm excited to find
Does
that
he have a
out.
dragon? Who is this guy? It's crazy that we haven't
Who
seen
is
him yet.
Darren? Who is Darren?
It's
So,
nuts.
my question is to you, which one does he choose? Does he go to Old Town, or does he go to Highgarden, or does he go somewhere else?
Wait, why did? Okay, I may have missed that. Why does she want him to go to Highgarden?
To talk to the Tyrells to gain their loyalty.
Okay.
Who are, I think,
I feel like he
committed to
has to go to Old Town because we have to be introduced to this character before
sooner than later.
Yeah, because we still haven't. The fact that we've gotten this far in the story without this character being part of the situation is absurd.
It is
really
to just
crazy.
like, oh, by the way, we
There's
have a third son.
There's a third son, fourth sibling to this family. This is one of Rhaenyra's brothers,
Right?
We've
never even seen this person
We have
before.
no idea who this is.
There's so
This
many
is nuts.
children we don't know. And then the second question is, and this is for a different situation, what does Daemon do as his final recourse for being basically called a pathetic dog?
I don't know if he's going to go and grab an army for himself and become like a third faction of this family. I don't know if he's going to go and claim Harrenhal in Rhaenyra's name to try and win back favor. It's so hard to tell what's what right now because he really is in that scene with Rhaenyra. He really does, you know, as the audience, he's telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't say anything about killing the kid. He didn't say anything about. He was very clear. The guy with one eye, the brother to the king, kill Aemon Targaryen.
But you know he did just want a little bit of blood.
And you know he wants a little blood, and you know that he really
But he
probably
wasn't-
doesn't care that it happened the way
No.
it happened. But he's
That
being
wasn't his
honest
intention.
in that his intention was not that.
Yes.
His intention was kill Aemon.
For her.
For her. For her.
'Cause
And
I
a
think
little
he really
for
does-
himself.
Yes, but I think he does have genuinely care
We
about
did
her.
skip over one scene. Aemond talking to his favorite whore, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that's the
and
one
curled up
scene.
like
Yes.
fucking Voldemort under the
Yes.
bench in Harry Potter.
So
he
we
looks like a
find out,
goblin, dude.
We find out where Aemon was the night of the murder.
Yes.
And he also finds that the coins are missing, and he finds one rolled under the table. But you find that he's at some house of pleasure with this woman, and that's where he was during the murder scene.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like, you can tell he's got some like parent issues somewhere in there. But that's a
'Cause
great
he's with
scene
a much
too.
older lady.
Yeah, that's
And-
such a great scene.
And he looks like a fucking goblin. He looks so weird.
you know, his eye doesn't close all the way.
Yeah.
which is a
It took me
great little detail.
It took me forever to realize that his eyes weren't open. Because that one's open, I'm like, his
Great
eyes
detail.
closed the entire scene.
Great detail.
He has no he's not even he's not looking at anything. He's so like relaxed that his eyes are closed. It's such a god, dude. What a great scene.
Just little stuff like that is what makes Game of Thrones great.
It's unbelievable.
So,
God.
rate this episode on a scale from 1 to 10.
What was my rating last week? Do you know?
I don't
can't
remember.
remember. This was a much better episode. I mean, this is legit. When I say this is like peak Game of Thrones content, this is like a 9 to a 9.5
And not
for
like
me.
when you say peak Game of Thrones, not like those big episodes, but like peak standard Game of Thrones.
Peak standard game. That's a perfect way of putting it. This
Yeah.
is like a 9.5 average episode for me. This is like up there with when I look back at the episodes I'll watch again and again and again. This is one of the episodes I'll watch again and again and again. Not because it has the Tyrion on court scene, not because it has Jaime in the hot tub with Brienne scene. This is one of those episodes where every scene to scene,
Was
holds
meaningful.
up so well and leads into the next part
And
so
even those
well.
little teeny ones we talked about.
Everything is important. Everything is like substantial. It is such an unbelievable episode. This is like a 9.5 episode for me easily.
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit myself. And again, 9 for me, that's a big number. So to hit a 9, it takes quite a bit. But for me, yeah, this is definitely like an 8.5, 8.6.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. If it just would have had, I think if the moment at the end, if I hadn't guessed that he was going to kill himself afterwards, that
Yeah.
might have been enough.
Yeah.
But anyway, what's your thoughts?
What
did you think about?
blind listener?
I know
who
we
doesn't
just
have
like did
eyes?
this all over the place because I didn't put it in Google Docs and I put it in Pages.
I think that we were much more on pace this time with what actually happened though. The first episode, excuse me, we were very all over
we
way
had
more
to,
all over
we
the place.
had to get through it.
We were very much on this episode. 95% of the time we were focused on the plot of this episode, the direction it took, in the line that it went.
Thank you, vulture.com.
Thank you,
I guess.
vulture.com,
Yes.
for
And
helping
I
us.
promise my notes were just as good.
Yeah, if not better.
Yes. But we'll be here next week for the 3rd episode, which I had the title for that one as well, but I don't know what it's called.
Will Matt Smith get recast in classic Game of Thrones order? Will Aemond sleep with that old lady again?
Who dies that you don't want to die? Tune in next week on House of the Dragons.
What is this called? I can't remember what this is called. What was
Rotten Potatoes?
that? No, I mean this specific show, The House of the Dragon. What did you name it?
I didn't name it anything. I just called it House of the Dragon.
That's what I mean.
Deep Dive.
Okay, House of the Dragon. On the next episode of House of the Dragon Deep Dive.
We'll see you at the movies.
Kill